Baker and Freddie Kitchens are both reading everything that is being written about them and said about them, but Baker said very clearly he wanted this season to be easy, and the guys felt the same way. What was your reaction to Baker's comments?
You know what we're starting to get in the NFL? We're starting to get a lot of, and it's got to be the athletes, we're starting to get a lot of players respond the same way guys do in the NBA. Man, we talked about Kyrie Irving. We talked about KD the last couple of years and their comments about the media. You would have sworn that the Browns were playing against people in the media last week. When the Rams, they couldn't block the Rams and everything. Like you can't continually, week after week, talk about distractions, talk about outside stuff. The teams that know how to win, and that was one of the problems with the Browns. They got a lot of players that haven't won at a high level and haven't won for a long period of time. So Baker saying something like, oh, we wanted it to be easy, that was idiotic. There is no offense in the league that's good, that thinks it's going to be easy or wants it to be easy. There's nothing easy about the National Football League. Now, maybe after starting those 9 games, this is what young players do. They think the NFL is easier than what they anticipated after playing a year. And a lot of times, you don't see that big jump in year 2 or year 3. And our greatest players, the greatest players we've ever had play the game, especially at quarterback, though, and Nick, you've pointed this out, man, that year number 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, man, they put up some historic type numbers if they're iconic players in the game. So for me, you have to learn how to win. This Browns team doesn't know how to do that yet. And they need to concentrate on the fundamentals. Their offensive line had not been good. Freddie Kitchens' play calling has not been good. How they're going to get Odell Beckham trying to move him around in certain spots because they got injuries at the other receiver and the tight end, it hadn't been great. So they need to make adjustment. It's not the media's fault. He's talking about, oh, we need to block out all the outside. You keep letting in all the outside stuff by your comments. This is a team that needs, an organization that needs to know how to win. And one thing Jenna said when we're coming out of preseason, all right, let's see when some adversity hits them. Let's see when we start playing these real games.
Well, and so we'll see for the first. I think this is their first real adversity. I understand they played poorly in week 1, but you can only, unless you have devastating injuries, week 1 is only week 1. And then they followed week 1 up with a win. Now, we might have said it was an ugly win, but it was a 3-score win on national TV where the defense holds the opposition to 3 points. It was this past weekend's game where the defense did its job, where Freddie Kitchens is calling draws on 4th and 9, where they can't run the ball inside the 5-yard line with a chance to force overtime. And now you're facing the Ravens, where you are, to me, this is the first real adversity Baker Mayfield has faced in his NFL career. Because everything last year was all bonus. You didn't even start the year as a starter. The team had won 1 game combined the previous 2 seasons.
Yeah, there were so many other things going on. They fired the coach.
Absolutely. There was not going to be any bad headlines.
And that's why he wanted it to be fun. He went 5-3 in 8 games last year and was like, well, I want this to be easy. All of a sudden he comes into this season and there's real adversity.
Well, okay, and so, exactly. And so we'll see how they respond to it this week. But I'm going to use one of my favorite quotes from you that I don't think you came up with. I don't know where you got it, though. I love it. Which is, sometimes if Johnny can't read, it's not Johnny's fault. It's the teacher's fault.
Yeah, Dennis Green.
Okay. Sometimes if your quarterback in year 2 thinks the NFL is supposed to be easy, it's not your quarterback's fault. It's the coach's fault. Because it is the coach's job to let you know it ain't going to be easy. And to me, I knew the offensive line was going to be a problem for Cleveland, but we have seen teams overcome worse offensive lines. The Freddie Kitchens situation is a tenuous one. And the biggest mismatch this weekend is not the Browns' offensive line against the Ravens' front. It's not the Browns' linebacking core trying to handle Lamar Jackson in and out of the pocket. The biggest mismatch this weekend is John Harbaugh against Freddie Kitchens. Is John Harbaugh who...
And, boy, you love them Harbaugh. It's just justified now.
This one I'm not wrong about.
He's one of one.
He's one of... And, by the way, he's the only coach that I can think of, at least in modern NFL history, certainly contemporary coaches, that has a similar path to being a head coach as Freddie Kitchens did. John Harbaugh went from special teams coach, defensive backs coach for 10 years with Philly to head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. Freddie Kitchens went from running backs coach to head coach of the Cleveland Browns. There's a lot of things in John Harbaugh Freddie Kitchens maybe should try to emulate or learn from, but I'll tell you this much. There is no chance Lamar Jackson came into this season, even though his team made the playoffs, even though he only lost one game in the regular season last year, even though they were more successful than the Browns in the same draft class, there is no chance Lamar came into this season saying, this is going to be easy.
Mentality.
Yes. It's about to just lay out for me. And I don't, you can partially blame Baker for thinking it's going to be easy, but it's his job, it's the coach's job to let him know it's going to be harder than you can possibly imagine, and I don't think he knew that.
I just think a lot of this, again, is just way too much talking, way too much opening up the door for distractions, and way too much of the worrying about what's written. Oh, you can write what you want, just too much of that. And if they focused a little bit more just on a game plan or what who their opponent is, or a couple of no comments, or I don't have anything to say about that, I feel like they'd be in better shape.
And every week in this league, people are coming up with witty concepts, defenses. Last week, one of the best that we've seen in the NFL over the last 30 years, Wade Phillips. That was the defense he's going against. This week, Baltimore, you talk about John Harbaugh, Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator, one of the best they have in the league. They'll be upset about the opportunity they blew last week in Kansas City, and they're going to get after Baker Mayfield because Kansas City's offensive line performed a lot better than the Cleveland offensive line. So look for a formidable test from that defense of Baltimore, trying to get – this is going to be difficult, and for them to dig themselves out of it, it's going to be them. Don't look outside of the room. It's going to be them. But also, if it doesn't go well, don't look outside the room. Don't start blaming people.
Well, and I'll add one other thing, and this is a little prediction for me. Even if the Browns win, these things you're concerned about are going to continue to rear their heads throughout the year, because if they win, this feels to me like a team that will say, we figured it out. That if despite all of this, you go to Baltimore, you upset them, you're first in the division, that it's going to be rinse, repeat on, see, guys, told you we had this fine. Now, I still think this is potentially a really good team, but those self-inflicted wounds you're concerned about, I don't think go away, win or loss this
I know
week.
Baltimore takes the field. John Harbaugh is their coach, 19-3. He's personally head-to-head versus Cleveland.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.